tell us about yourself briefly in terms of your illustration career. How did it all start?
Well, I went to art college in Cambridge back in the dark ages, and I decided while I was there that I wanted to be a book illustrator, children's book illustrator. I think Colin McNaughton was my biggest influence. He was one of the part-time tutors there. And I illustrated my first 4 books while I was still at uni, and I've never had a proper job since. I sort of muddled along for a year or so, then got an agent, illustration agent, and worked with her for, I'd say, about 15 or 20 years before I sort of cut loose and started writing and sort of went on my own.
Did you move from illustration to writing, or were you doing both then, illustrating and writing?
No, I didn't do any, I mean, apart from dip my toe in the water just with a couple of very short scripts for educational books. But it's really just an illustrated poem, well, much like this one, I suppose. But but it wasn't really until about early 2000s that I actually wrote my first proper picture book, which was The Lamb Who Came for Dinner. And it was shortlisted with about 6 awards. So it was a bit of a whoa.
Tell us about Little Bunny in terms of the idea. How did that come about?
Well, it all came from a drawing in my sketchbook. I mean, I have loads of sketchbooks, and I just bought these different sketchbooks, and I liked the paper. It was got quite a nice texture to it. So I just started having a doodle one evening in front of the telly, and ended up drawing a rabbit in a boat. My drawings, when I'm doodling, tend to reflect how I'm feeling at the time. And I think I must have been feeling just a little bit, you know, unsure of myself at the time, because that was the drawing that I did. And it just had such sort of pathos. And I put it on Twitter, and instantly I ended up with about, well, not instantly, but I ended up with about 1,700 likes, you know, and I'd never had more than about 12 before that. So I thought, oh, we're onto something. And then just basically doodled a different bunny most days, and until I'd got a collection, and that's how it came about, really.
The expressions in these drawings are wonderful, really. I mean, as well as the facial expressions, the ears tend to reflect the whole kind of mood
Yes.
of Bunny.
Yeah, one of the I visit a lot of schools, and one of the things I really like to do is teach children how to do facial expressions, because it really makes characters you draw come to life. And I mean, if in the book it says Bunny felt sad, if Bunny doesn't look sad, the children don't make the connect. So, you know, it's really crucial to children's book illustration.
So do you do much work in schools, Steve?
Yes, yeah, I do a lot of work in schools. I do illustration workshops, writing workshops, and paint murals. I usually end up doing a drawing for them on a big sheet of paper. They suggest characters, and I do a drawing, do a story picture, and then leave the story with them to write about afterwards. Because I think a visual link to a story is always a good start.
This series of drawings in Little Bunny's Book of Thoughts. Do you think there's an extension of this? Do you think there are more kind of thoughts for Bunny? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're already whizzing around in my head.
Excellent.
But I think, yes, definitely, I'd like to sort of look into friendships and just the whole general kindness, because I think it's the sort of thing that we need more of, and there's so many nuances to it. I think that you could have a whole range of really nice sort of images and phrases that would put those two things across.
Why do you feel it's important for children to be able to explore their emotions through poetry and stories?
Well, I think firstly, it's a safe way to do it for them. They haven't got to talk about their own emotions necessarily, but they can sort of see them echoed in the character in the story. And generally, when they're reading a story, they're in a safe environment. They're with their parent. They're in a sort of cozy sort of, and it gives them a sort of way to express their emotions or to understand their emotions by relating it to a character in the book. So I think it is really important.
And do you think it's do you think it's easier telling these stories through animals than it is through people?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've illustrated hundreds of books where the animals are the main characters, and the nice thing about them is you bypass all the issues of race or gender or color of the hair or whether one's got glasses or whatever. It's just you relate to the emotion in the character, and children just get it. They just totally see themselves in the animals. So yeah, I do it a lot.
Came to us as a publisher through a link, if I remember rightly, with James Mayhew.
Yes.
Have you worked with James, or is it just a friendship, or what's the link?
We've got a sort of Twitter relationship, basically. It's one of those people that I've been aware of and worked with people that he's worked with, but we've never actually met. It's I love his work, and I think we've got a sort of mutual appreciation society thing going. But yeah, we've only actually interacted mostly by Twitter.
I think the main thing that stood out to me about this story was kind of the mindfulness aspect of the poem.
Yes.
How do you think it ties in to mental health and well-being for children?
I think with all children's books, you can't be too preachy and you can't be too overt. I think the more you can sort of put things across that they understand the tug of the emotion, but even if they don't get the words, well, I think we all just need to sort of stop for a bit and sort of untangle our thoughts and get our heads clear and be kind to ourselves. Mindfulness is sort of a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but to be honest, I didn't actually look it up until I'd finished writing the book, because I thought, oh, we've said mindfulness here, but I suppose I better look up, see what it actually means. And it was really interesting to see, like, going through the book, how you tick, yes, said that, tick, said that. And it was done very instinctively, because I think it's just how I feel about things, and it's not been based on some sort of scientific description or the zeitgeist or whatever. It's just what's in your head. And yeah, so I think if it's not forced, then I think children do understand it, and they do take from it what they need to take without it being sort of hammered into them.
All of the quotes in the book, they're all very memorable.
It's very important with children to be able to say things that can have quite a deep meaning in a very simple way, and I think if you do a rhyming text as well, it stays in your head, and it resonates more. So I think I've always tried with my picture books to be quite minimal with my use of words, and every now and then I get carried away writing exactly the right word, but in a way that's it doesn't not understandable, and you have to think, well, how can I rephrase that so that it's got that meaning without sounding too pompous or intellectual.
I was quite interested by the decision to keep all of the drawings sort of black and white, because looking at a lot of your previous books, they're very colourful. I was wondering if that was a sort of conscious decision.
I think it was, as I say, initially just came from having a soft pencil and a new sketchbook. But having done so much tone on the drawings, it almost seemed unnecessary to colour them. And I felt some of that softness might be lost if you then tried to sort of recreate it, with watercolour or whatever. I mean, I would like at some point to maybe put some tints, on some of the drawings and just see how that works. But for now, I think I just like them just the way they are.
Absolutely. And thanks, Steve, for your time and thanks for the book. It's great. So.
Well, thank you.